Good morning, Summa scholars. Welcome to the Daily Summa. Today is Wednesday, March 19th, second week of Lent, and the solemnity of St. Joseph, husband of Mary. Good morning, Joe.
Good morning.
How are you doing, friend? Why are you not in my ears? You're coming through the...
Oh, come on.
You're not in my ears, dude. Everything is...
Gotta fix that.
We're going to fix that right now. Let me press the button. I put in the Bluetooth is on, but then you have to hit the little thing. Now you're in my ears.
Good.
Ooh, that's nice. It's amazing how quickly I've warmed up to these earbuds. You know? How are you doing this morning, Joe?
Good. Yeah, just making sure this thing's running properly. Everything's deciding to give me as little information as I can possibly get.
Oh,
So,
sweet. The Beaver
there you
Galleon
go.
is...
All right, that's working. Cool.
All right, the Beaver Galleon is a little hard to maneuver this morning. It's been a very gentle, graceful morning. The sun always, coming up very nicely. I was out front and heard the birds chirping after vigil prayer and before morning prayer. The morning prayer antiphons were quite lovely today. They, of course, speaking of St. Joseph, there's a limited scriptural text about Joseph, and so a lot of it is around the Christmas story. So today's feast has antiphons that are reminiscent of Christmas. Joseph and Mary lived in a town called Nazareth, or Joseph rose up early and took them to Egypt until the death of Herod. Things like that. So a lot of Christmas remembrances. And also it was kind of nice, as you know, I try to figure out better and better ways to celebrate feasts and solemnities. And I didn't really have much, there's not an august tradition of St. Joseph, husband of Mary, like there is with, let's say, St. Lucy, the feast of St. Lucy. You have the candles on the head and the song Santa Lucia and all these traditions, obviously Christmas, Easter. We have a lot. But so I have to kind of make stuff up, is what I'm saying, is I, have through the years made stuff up, and I don't have a whole lot. So my devotion to St. Joseph is relatively new. I think it started 2 Christmases ago. Staying at this house, I celebrated Christmas with this family, which was beautiful and wonderful as always. And one of the family members' sister's husband, their uncle-in-law or something, sent me a gift from Florida, and one of them was a medal of St. Joseph, which I'm wearing right now. And when it came out of the package, there was light attached to it in my heart and mind. There wasn't like a physical light on it. And I'd never had any kind of inclination towards St. Joseph at all. To me, he was boring, And husband, that word just doesn't have the ring of awesomeness to it in my mind. Husband, dad, ugh. The way I grew up, those were not cool words. Those were burdensome, terrible words. And so that's what I was taught as a child. I don't mean dad sat down with the chalkboard and says husband equals bad, but just the way he acted and spoke. But he did kind of say husband is bad, actually. He did sit me down and counsel me to watch out for women are crazy. So it took a while, many years of healing to rectify that situation. Later on, Dad would say, I was wrong. You got to do this, and you can't have negative look on women, and it's not their fault, and we all have our things. And he said all that stuff later. Too late, dude. damage is done. I was like an impressionable little kid. You're telling a kid all this? He was bitter. But so the warming up to Joseph, husband of Mary, dad of Jesus. I mean, I understand that's great and everything. And he never speaks, you know. Mary's like writing songs and stuff, doing cool stuff. Mary wrote a hit song. She wrote
True.
the Magnificat. That thing's been recorded by more people around the world than the Beatles, probably. I mean, from when she wrote it up until now, there's probably more productions of Magnificat than Beatles songs. So she's a hit songwriter, you know. She does cool stuff. So Joseph took a while, and that medal, it was just a call. It was a call for devotion towards Saint Joseph, and these mysterious ways that the spirit realm works. That little medal made me interested in Saint Joseph, and then that took the last 2 years of study, investigation, devotion. I got that book, the 33-day consecration to Saint Joseph by Father whatever his name is. I can't remember. Sorry, I'm bad with names. Yeah, and it's been a beautiful road. It's been a beautiful ride. Devotion to Saint Joseph, understanding of husband, being a husband, father. Well, I mean, as much as I can. Someone might argue you have a greater understanding of what it means to be a husband and father than me. Someone might argue that, Joseph.
It's possible.
And your name is Joseph. Do you have any particular devotion? Yeah. Do you have any particular devotion to Saint Joseph, Joseph?
Yeah, I'm growing in it. I was doing the 33-day consecration that I failed miserably in week 1, and I'm just gonna not do it right now. It was so bad.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I know we're covering that one. We're just gonna pick it up later.
Yeah. Sometimes you just gotta, like, I'm trying to do recovery from my Lent. The beginning of my Lent has just been ramshackle. I mean, one thing is there's these feast days in it, but the other thing is I just haven't wanted to. That's pretty simple. And I've noticed the thing that I fail in is the main thing I was trying to overcome. I give myself these little excuses to watch short form videos on YouTube. You know, that's like my recreation thing.
Yeah.
I like to watch reaction videos, especially because I was a musician. I love seeing people who've never heard certain musicians or songs hear them for the first time. I love to see how people perceive things. You know, I love the movie When Harry Met Sally, Fiddler on the Roof, things like that. I love to watch people see these things for the first time. They don't know what's going to happen. How do they react? What people perceive as interesting in a story. As a storyteller and writer, I'm very interested in what wins the audience over. Like that scene in When Harry Met Sally where they split the screen 4 ways and they're talking. Carrie Fisher and Bruno are on the bed, and then Meg Ryan and Billy Crystal are on the other side. They have that long thing. They said it took them like 90 takes to get it right. They did it in one room to get the beat timing right. That scene always wins. Even if somebody's not a filmmaker, they're like, wow, this is brilliant. This is great. That's what's curious to me. And so I found myself giving myself, especially because of the feast days and stuff, giving myself little extra excuses to just watch more and more of those free form reaction videos, which is fine. I mean, there's nothing per se wrong with it. It's just not what my plan was. My plan was to be more in the desert, to be away from all those things. So I know what you mean when you say the thing just fell apart. My plan is to get back on the horse. Always just try to get back. it's kind of different with that consecration, because that consecration has certain days that you start.
Yeah, it's like a specific time frame and stuff.
Yeah,
So it's
yeah,
like one
yeah.
thing. It's one thing to make up a couple days, but it's another to make up like a week and a half.
Right.
At a certain
I
point, it's like,
100%
yeah, I'll
agree.
just hit the next one.
Yeah, 100% agree. But my plan is to hit it harder. And then I started yesterday a novena to Our Lady of Mount Carmel, specifically asking for the grace to combat distractions. Distractions from prayer focus and silence, and the craving to go into videos and have the entertainment and the emotion, you know, and then to just have that in the real world. The hardest part's at night, you sit down in bed, you've had a long day, you're ready to just chill, man. You sit with that video. It's like around the campfire. It'd be like when a kid in ancient Greece sitting around the campfire with mom and dad, and Homer is there telling a story, and you just listen to the story until you just fall asleep in mom and dad's arms. That's the comfort type of thing that we have with our little videos at night. So I've asked, beginning my novena, because I chose Our Lady of Mount Carmel, of course, because it's all about silence, contemplation. Elijah goes up to the mountain. First, there's the whirlwind, let's say the whirlwind of distractions and interest in this world. The whirlwind, or you can say the world wind. And then he stayed there till he heard the still small voice that you hear in silence. So I'm asking for intercessions from Our Lady of Mount Carmel to combat this during this Lent. See if we can make some progress there. Well, folks, we're trying to keep this thing under 45 minutes. So do you have anything else you want to say, Joseph, on this feast of St. Joseph? I will say, though,
I had surprise, but I couldn't make it work, so maybe tomorrow.
Aw, bummer. Do you have the map, though, of our travel through Egypt?
Yeah,
the desert.
I think I know where we are. Let's see.
We should have just left Chazar, Rabim, Chazar, the graves of greed is how you translate it in English, possible translation. We just left there, and we should be right up the coast of. Let's see what we got.
I can't read any of that stuff.
So. Yep, that's right. Kazarach. Okay, we just left Kibrach Hatava, which is translated into Anglais, as I said, could be translated the graves of greed. The people became greedy and cravenous and desired to fill their gullet and their belly. They wanted to watch more YouTube videos instead of praying. And
I get it.
God took some. Yeah, I know. That's a big point in all of this stuff. You should be saying, you shouldn't be reading these stories going, how could they do that? They just saw God do that. You should be going, yeah, I get it. Exactly. That's exactly right. The graves of greed. All right, folks. I will say something perhaps later about St. Joseph and what I heard Brant Petrie bring out that was right in front of our face the whole time, first time, concerning St. Joseph and his lineage. But let's just get the page rolling, though, to stay under 45 minutes. Right at the top of page 101. LOL. Father, which is such a perfect consideration and comprehension of the Father has of the Son. We left off talking about the intimacy of the Father and the Son's relationship. The Father is the giver. The Son is the receiver. Reply to objection dos. Replying to Ralph. The infinity of matter not made perfect by form is known in itself because all knowledge comes by the form, whereas the infinity of the form not limited by matter is in itself supremely known. God is infinite in this way and not in the first, as appears from what was said above in question 7, article 1. The infinity, I don't know why he says it's known in itself. The infinity of matter not made perfect by form. This is what we discussed earlier with hylomorphia or hylomorphism. I always miss it. And Thomas, and then we talked about the amazing similitude or likeness of this teaching with modern quantum physics, that we now know that matter is really an energy field, and that when we view something, it collapses into a discrete movement in the field. So we have a large energy field, but picture ancient times and thinking of matter as they perhaps did in the steady state theory, time of Aristotle. You just have formless matter, and we can't comprehend that. We've never seen that. Every time we see matter, it's in some form. You've never seen matter just floating like matter. That's something God could see at the beginning. In the beginning, God created the heaven, earth. Tohu vavohu. The earth was without form and void, without form. Every time we see matter, it's in form. We don't see matter per se floating by itself. So the infinity of matter not made perfect by form is unknown in itself. Oh, unknown. Because all knowledge comes by the form. All right, now I'm with it. Whereas the infinity of the form, not limited by matter, is in itself supremely known. So we know all the forms, horsiness, dogginess, humanness. We know that form, that substance, by, or whatever particular person we see, the suppositum, whatever person before us or whatever horse is before us. If we can see the horses out there today, this morning, you know that just by an apprehension, as your intellect apprehends that. God is infinite in this way and not in the first way. God is infinite in his substance, as appears from what is said above. Do I even remember what the question was? Further, everything infinite as such is unknown, but God is infinite, as was shown above. Therefore, he, in himself, he is unknown. Thomas is trying to explain to Ralph, you can say that he is unknown in his infinitude. We can't comprehend the fullness, but the idea of seeing God in a intellectual beatific vision is something different. All right, objection 3. God is not said to be not existing as if he did not exist at all, but because he exists above all that exists, inasmuch as he is his own existence. Hence, it does not follow that he cannot be known at all, but that he exceeds every kind of knowledge, which means that he is not comprehended. This is probably a good time to drop this kind of cool little turn of phrase. We can say that God is nothing. And then the atheist laughs and says, exactly, God is nothing. But what that is saying philosophically, theologically, is God is no thing. God is not an individual thing among things, but God is ipsum esse, being itself. So this is what we're getting across. If it says God doesn't exist, I don't remember what the actual first question was. Further, the created intellect knows only existing things. So if you're saying God is no thing, we're saying God doesn't exist. This is what the question is trying to highlight or make us think about. And then Thomas is saying, yes, you're right. He is no thing, but that doesn't mean in the sense of not existing at all, like the void. All right. Reply to objection 4, which is Shimon, I believe. Proportion is twofold. In one sense, it means a certain relation to one quantity to another, according as double, treble, equal are species of proportion. In another sense, every relation of one thing to another is called proportion. And in this sense, there can be a proportion of the creature to God, inasmuch as it is related to him as the effect of its cause. This thing that we discussed before. that has a relation to me as the efficient cause of playing that song. And it also has a relation to me in as much as it's my style. Other people might play the same thing. Mississippi John Hurt will play this song, but it's going to sound different because it's my style. So I am in the song. I have a proportional relation to the song, especially if it's a song that I wrote, which I did not win. That was Make Me Down a Pallet on My Floor. On Your Floor, Mississippi John Hurt. Look it up. Great song. So, and in this sense, there can be a proportion of the creation to God, and as much as it is related to him as the effect is to the cause, as proportionality to its act. And in this way, the created intellect can be proportioned to know God. We have been created to know him. That's the whole shooting match, folks. If you were wondering what the meaning of life is, to know and enjoy God, to see what's in the final box, to go through this video game until we defeat the big boss man. The final boss. What's the final boss, Joe?
I don't know. Probably you.
Death. Okay, Article 2. Whether the essence of God is seen by the created intellect through an image. Again, everyone, it's so important to remember what Father David Brent said. This is an extended meditation on the presence of God. You know how I can remember times when I was with a lady that I was very much taken with. You do strange things. You're like, I sit and hold her hand, just look at it. I liked hands. I like hands. If a girl doesn't have nice hands, that'll ruin the whole thing for me. Isn't that weird? Like,
No, apparently not. My wife has a hand thing too. I don't get it, but
yeah, and I've often had girls just stare at my hands. I don't know. Apparently, they like the sort of wolfiness of the hair going there, and kind of
she's about to feel
not-
very vindicated because I made fun of her for this for years.
Mary Kate.
She finally found one person out of the dozens and hundreds of people we've talked
I'm
to.
sure there's more than one.
Yeah.
Tell us in the comments, folks.
Gotta be. But what are you guys?
Yeah, I've had girls just sit and stare at my hands for hours, and I am the same way. I'll just like, ooh, fascinating. So this is, think of that with our divine lover here, that we're getting to know better. Yes, we know that the essence of God is not seen by the created intellect through an image. We know this. Why are we doing this, Thomas? If you think about it as just a masculine way of, I've got to figure this problem out. I'm a man. I got to figure the problem out. Let's see, what is Article 2 trying to teach us? You're going to be bored. Why would anyone do that? This is not what's happening. We're having an extended meditation on our beloved and seeing what the Father's hands look like. We know that you can't see him in an image, but we're going to meditate lovingly on how, in what way, what other things can we find out about him as we contemplate this question. All right, let's go. Larry is up on deck. Objection 1, Larry. It seems that the essence of God is seen through an image by the created intellect. For it is written, we know that when he shall appear, we shall be like him, and we shall see him as he is. Okay, Larry, clearly that's not talking about an image. That's talking about he himself, but we'll see what Thomas has to say. Reply to Ralph. Further, Augustine says, when we know God, some likeness of God is made in us. Okay, you can have a likeness of God by increase in virtue, an increase in warm, chewy, delicious chocolate chip cookie fresh out of the oven love. It doesn't have to be an image. By the way, chocolate chip cookies. That was one of the things I was going to say about my St. Joseph celebration in this morning. I'm trying to find things to celebrate. And so I made chocolate chip cookies yesterday for today's feast.
Mm-hmm.
I'm working on a new recipe. I'm creating a recipe. The whole idea, and eventually perhaps Pat's Healthy Bakery. My mother had a bakery. Now we're going to start it again, perhaps sometime. The idea is that you have, it's Pat's Healthy Bakery. So you want recipes here's my idea: to make cookies, muffins, cakes with only the ingredients that they would have had 2,000 years ago, let's say. Now that's a hard trick to pull off. First of all, the flour is different now. They've monkeyed with the flour so that it has more gluten in it now than it used to back 2,000 years ago. And I got some ancient flour once from a seller. So you can get online. They raise the ancient strand of wheat and then they make the flour. It's more like maize, like corn flour, maize. It like falls apart. If you try to make bread with it, it's like, I couldn't even imagine trying to make a cake or something like a croissant with this stuff. It would just, I don't think you could do it. So it may be that you can't even do it, like to actually use ingredients from 2,000 years ago. But anyway, I'm just using wheat flour, one of the leading brands of supposedly blah, 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 as good as it can be wheat flour. And then the other little thing that's not quite right, or what would be 2,000 years ago for these chocolate chip cookies, is I went to the Amish store and got some chocolate chips, which have sugar in it. But I have previously made my own chocolate chips, like from scratch, not using sugar. And so that will be the next step, to use those chocolate chips in the chocolate chip cookie. But I didn't want to do it yesterday. I didn't have time, didn't have bandwidth. But I did it with honey and melted butter and heavy whipping cream, which that would be another thing I would have to do. I'd have to get some local person who has cows who's making real heavy whipping cream, not the stuff you get in the store. There's a lot of hoops to jump through to get us back to the way we were and more healthy. But just as Israel going through the desert, we do it through stages. We do it by stages. We have to be merciful with ourselves. Very important to be merciful with yourself, as a good father would be. See how I connected our feast day? But I made these chocolate chip cookies with just honey, no sugar and everything. And they were delicious. And so this morning, I have my little chocolate chip cookie, which I never do. I never eat in the morning. I have my little chocolate chip cookie, dipping it in my nice warm coffee for the Feast of St. Joseph. And it felt Christmassy. There, I got it. Finally, I got to the end point. It took a little minute.
A few minutes later.
It felt Christmassy, folks. Try to make your feast days. If you're going to do it, people. As what's that actor from Texas that everyone loves who was in Dazed and Confused? Oh yeah, that guy. Everybody watching this knows it right now. You don't know who I'm talking about?
Nope.
Famous Texas actor Matthew McConaughey. Wow. You guys heard it, my voice. How I have to reach back. That was like that Harry Potter memory thing. She was like, ooh, and it has a little trace.
Dude.
Matthew McConaughey. In Matthew McConaughey's book, his autobiography called Green Lights, which I highly suggest to any man out there read it. Every man should read that book. Matthew McConaughey said he went to tell his father that he was leaving college and going to go try to be an actor. Well, that's a nightmare call for most dads. Dad, I'm leaving college, that thing you're spending money on, and I'm going to go be an actor. I want to dance. It's like when I told my dad I was going to be a musician.
Yeah.
Not a winning conversation. I had graduated from one of the top 25 universities in the country, not now, but back then it was, University of St. Thomas, along with Harvard and Yale. I also had my leading professors write glowing recommendations for me to get into industrial organizational psychology at the University of Houston, which at the time was the highest level in the country of IO psychology. So I would have been in the top IO school getting a doctorate. And, you know, the beginning pay is 6 figures for those people. And Dad knew this. And then I was like, I think I'm actually going to go sideshow tramps. Poor Dad. Anyway, Matthew McConaughey calls his dad and wanted to be an actor, and he said there was silence on the phone, and then his dad's only response was, "Well, don't half-ass it.
Yeah.
Don't half-ass it." If you're going to celebrate the saints, guys, if you're going to celebrate your life in the church, if you're going to do Lent, don't half-ass it. Why? Why be mediocre? Oh my gosh, I fled from the world. I'm no longer going to sit around with bourbon that are given to me by hot chicks in the jacuzzi and live a life of music. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to come to be a church, to just sit around and go to church and then come home and watch football or something. Like, why are you even just, I don't know. Don't half-ass it. Try to figure out ways to celebrate. Bring the feasts into your house. Go out and figure out a new dance or something. I don't know. Figure out stuff to celebrate these things and bring it into the culture. We got to do something. You see how these people are nuts out in the street and on TV. These are our fellow humans. They've gone kooky. They don't know how to live. People committing suicide left and right. Got to help the people. Got to do something. Don't half-ass it. All right. I don't know if I did number 3, but I don't care anymore. I'm going straight to on the contrary. Augustine says that when the apostle says we see through a glass and in an enigma, that's interesting because the King James says we see through a glass darkly, but this translates it, we see through an enigma. By the term glass and enigma, certain similitudes are signified by him. Wow, the translators slamming some alliteration here, which are accommodated to the vision of God. But to see the essence of God is not an enigmatic nor a speculative vision, but is, on the contrary, of an opposite kind. Therefore, the divine essence is not seen through a similitude. All right, we're going to have to get a little more clarification. And look how long his I answer that is. Guys, I feel like this is going to be one of those, just read it and then comment on it more later. How much time have we killed today, Joe?
We're at 32 minutes.
So to stay under 45, I've got about 10 minutes.
Yeah, sure.
All right, let's see what we can do. Take a deep breath, everybody, and let's go respondio, the meat of this thing. 2 things are required both for sensible and for intellectual vision: power and sight. Okay, obviously we're making distinctions. That's philosophy. And the union of the thing seen with the sight. So you have to have power of sight, and then you have to have a union of the thing seen with the sight. In some way, the thing you see enters into you. Again, and conceives a vision. Again, everything is lover beloved language. Everything is a repetition of this original cause. For vision is made actual only when the thing seen is in a certain way in the seer. Now, in corporeal things, it is clear that the thing seen cannot be by its essence in the seer, but only by its likeness. When you look at a bowling ball, it doesn't enter into you. We know this. It's by a certain similitude or a likeness that it's within us now. As the similitude of a stone is in the eye, whereby the vision is made actual, whereas the substance of the stone is not there. You don't have a stone in your eye. But if the principle of the visual power and the thing seen were one and the same thing, it would necessarily follow that the seer would receive both the visual power and the form whereby it is seen from that one same thing. Okay, he's setting up something here. Now, it is manifest both that God is the author of the intellectual power and that he can be seen by the intellect. And since the intellective power of the creature is not the essence of God, it follows that it is some kind of participated likeness of him who is the first intellect. We have an intellect because God is eternal intellect. He is mind. We're sharing in that. Fire shares, the wood shares in the nature of the fire. Hence also the intellectual power of the creature is called an intelligible light, as it were, derived from the first light. Whether this be understood of the natural power or of some perfection, superadded, of grace or of glory. Now he's kind of given a hint to the final thing. Either added to, superadded of grace or of glory. Therefore, in order to see God, there must be some similitude of God on the part of the visual faculty, whereby the intellect is made capable of seeing God. But on the part of the object seen, which must necessarily be united to the seer, the essence of God cannot be seen by any created similitude. First, because as Dionysius says, by the similitudes of the inferior order of things, the superior can in no way be known. Dionysius is setting up a principle. By the similitude of the inferior order of things, the superior can in no way be known. I would like to pause. Remember, we're doing a flyover. We can't hit everything. If I was sitting on those straw stacks on the Côte de Latran in Paris, talking to Thomas, or post resurrection of the dead, Dionysius is there too. I would have to go over and sit with Larry and Ralph and be like, oh, wait, but Thomas, if you're saying that the similitude of inferior ordered things cannot show us the superior, then why is it that we say that we come to know spiritual things through material things? Are not spiritual things superior to material? But the whole premise from Aristotle is that we come to know the superior thing, the spiritual, through the material. That would be my question. And Ralph and Larry would go, yeah, yeah. As by the likeness of a body, the essence of an incorporeal thing cannot be known. Much less, therefore, can the essence of God be seen by any created likeness whatever. Second, because the essence of God is his own very essence, as was shown above in question 3, article 4, which cannot be said of any created form. And so no created form can be the similitude representing the essence of God to the seer. The essence of God is too foundational. It's again like a good likeness or similitude might be to say, as I've said before about looking at an amoeba through the telescope, you can see the whole thing. Actually, you can't, because you can't see the back of it. And in certain prayer experiences, I have heard of a man who had an experience of a locution from a saint, and he had the perception that the saint could see his front and his back at the same time. I also heard this from another priest in Medjugorje, I think. I think he saw the Blessed Mother and he realized she could see all around him at once. So this vision in heaven is intellectual, is the point we're trying to get at here. You're seeing in a different kind of way. I also had a dream once, one of my most powerful dreams ever, although it doesn't sound powerful, it sounds boring. But if you really think about it, what happened in this dream, later on I realized what it meant, not meant in the symbolic sense, but what the implications were of what happened in the dream. And it was a bit mind-blowing. In the dream, I was talking with my buddy Randy, who I haven't seen or heard from years. He could be dead for all I know. But I'm talking with Randy, and I'm seeing him very, very clearly. And then in the dream, I begin to back up. By some force, I begin to be pulled away from Randy. And then as I was pulled away from him, I exited his chest and I saw his body in front of me. And I realized I couldn't see him as well. I woke up from that dream going, wow. And then, of course, through the coming days, I thought about it and I was like, well, wait a minute. If I was inside him, how could I see him better? And then that's when it all clicked, that there's this vision in earth is limited, very, very limited. You're seeing people less clearly when they're right in front of you than you will see in heaven or in the higher forms of vision, like prophetic visions, perhaps. You're seeing something more clearly because you're apprehending the whole of it in an intellectual apprehension that contains all of the things. It'd be like having a complete computer code of some character in a video game. in the video game, you only see that character there, and then you might toggle them and have them turn around, and you see what they're wearing, that they have a dagger in their back and all this, or you may get different understandings of the character. But if you had the complete code of that character just in your mind, you would at once apprehend everything that that character is. You wouldn't have to turn it around. And that's the kind of vision I had in that dream, and that's the kind of vision that we're going to able to see of God and the saints. Okay, third, because of the divine essence is uncircumscribed and contains in it self-immanently whatever can be signified or understood by the created intellect. This cannot in any way be represented by any created likeness. For every created form is determined according to some aspect of wisdom or of power or of being itself or of some like thing. Hence, to say that God is seen by some similitude is to say that the divine essence is not seen at all, which is false. He's using the word see, like I had said before. To see the divine essence, you're going to have an intellectual apprehension, because you can't get behind it. You can't stand behind God's essence like a microscope and an amoeba and look at it. You're going to have to look at it from the inside. Or to put it another way, God became man so that man might become God. The only way you're going to see this vision is not by standing outside of it and looking. There is no outside. He is. The only way you're going to be able to see it is to become it. Therefore, it must be said that to see the essence of God, there is required some similitude in the visual faculty, namely the light of glory. This is Thomas's point. He's saying that you're going to be able to see God through the light of glory. Okay, Thomas, I'll take your word for it. The light of glory strengthening the intellect to see God, which is spoken of in the Psalms. In thy light we shall see light. So he's nailing his premise down to a scripture, which is a very powerful scripture too. Some scriptures have greater implications in theology than others, and this one has a great deal of implication. Small scripture, big implication. Very large lever, can move the whole world. In thy light we shall see light. So we will see the light of God in his light. And Thomas is saying it's the light of glory. The essence of God, however, cannot be seen by any created similitude representing the divine essence itself as it really is. Reply to objection 1, the author speaks of the similitude which is caused by participation in the light of glory, which is what he just said. All right, we're done with the page. What time? How much time?
You're at 43 minutes, basically.
Yeah. Oh, how does he do it? Everybody, have a wonderful feast of St. Joseph, the husband of Mary, and appreciate the fact that in this world, people say, hey, here's this quarterback, or here's this woman, the wife of this quarterback. Here's this woman, the Malalia or whatever, the wife of the president. Behold, today we're celebrating St. Joseph, husband of Mary. Have a great feast day, everybody. Love ya. Peace.
Very good.